across Texas. The issue is.
I'm Greg Groogan in Houston.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
And I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas. And this is Texas, the issue is.
The surprise attack by Hamas militants and subsequent massacre of hundreds of Israeli citizens has triggered both horror and continuing repercussions both here in the U.S. and across the globe. Among those closely monitoring the volatile forces in play and the long-term implications of the counteroffensive unleashed by the Jewish state is Texas Congressman and former Navy SEAL Dan Crenshaw. We spoke at length about the bloodshed in and around Gaza, as well as America's support for Ukraine and the ongoing war against Russian aggression. Congressman, Israel has just endured a 9/11 scale attack with the added atrocity of kidnappings and the calculated execution of children. How should the United States respond?
And it is a war. It's not a battle. It's not another resurgence of a conflict like we've seen over the last 20, even 30 years. I'm hearing there's another front opening up from Hezbollah to the north. That was a huge fear of ours, and if that's true and Israeli military starts to become overwhelmed, we have to have some pretty serious discussions up here about what America is going to do to make sure that the state of Israel doesn't cease to exist.
Congressman, if Hamas is in fact funded and directed by Iran, do you believe this massacre was an act of war via proxy and should be treated accordingly by Israel and the United States?
We'd have to have proof that Iran was exactly involved in this particular operation. We don't have that proof. And so you're seeing the Iranians cheer this on, of course, but if we're going to go to a war with Iran, they have to be directly involved. We would need proof of that. So that's a pretty important question.
Congressman Crenshaw, you have said emphatically in the past, if we don't fight them there, they will come here. Now, given what is likely to be a pretty merciless Israeli response, is the threat of terrorism here heightened?
They hate us because they hate us, because they're taught from a very young age to hate us. It's their ideology, it's their religion. So these kind of actions, war, not war, that's not what affects it. What affects their ability and their intent to wage war on us is purely an ability question. Do they have the operational space and timing? Do they have the funding? Do they have the resources to do it? And can they get away with it? That's always what they're thinking. It's not about whether we're at war or not at war. And over time, we've made sure that because we fight them where they're at, they don't have that they don't have that space. They don't have that time and resources to come attack us here. And that's always how we should remain vigilant.
On the issue of continued funding for Ukraine, the GOP caucus is clearly split. Now, back in March, your colleague, Chairman McCall, said American weaponry and aid to Ukraine had succeeded in degrading Russian military capacity by 60%. Now, in a strategic sense, is that continuing degradation worth the investment?
The strategic benefits are more than just degrading the Russian military. You have to make them regret it. If you let Ukraine fall now after investing all that money, that would be a poor investment decision. It's kind of like what we did in Afghanistan. Bring it to a stable place and then cut and run and just lose everything you had. That would be a stupid way to involve ourselves in Ukraine as well. You need to make sure that you're protecting a world order where countries aren't just invading other countries for territorial conquest. That was the world we lived in before World War II. And what happened? World wars. You know, we've had a very nice time in the span of human history in the last 70 years, and that's because America has prevented world wars from happening. I don't think people understand that very well or appreciate that, and so there's a cost to it. Not a huge cost. Frankly, it's a fraction of our annual defense spending just to degrade a major strategic adversary of ours. Now, that doesn't mean I'm for this blank check talk that Biden wants. We should be sending them weapons that will help them win, not just prolong the war. We should try to be ending the war, but you end it with strength, not weakness. And I also think that any more Ukraine aid needs to be attached to border security.
Yeah, my one-word description, ominous. Rudy, what's your word?
You know, Greg, I was originally thinking deterrence, but my word is outed.
Stephen, your word?
My word, provocation.
Okay, plenty to unpack here. The Fox Texas Trio will be right back on the other side of this break.